until I'm educated. I studied at the Sorbonne, I doctored in mathematics and could have been a dog. I can program a computer and choose the perfect time. If you've got the inclination, I've got the grind. Hey, wait a minute. If this guy's so smart, why can't he fix his car? Right? Why does he need somebody else to do that part of it? And that's about as apt a description as I discovered one day you could have for my life. Because on the one hand, I just feel like, for the most part, I have the key elements. I was listening to the motivational speaker, in any case, I was listening to this guy. Wow, I don't usually. So I have a rule. I don't start over once I played. And I think I'm so hesitant to start the story because on the one hand, parts of it feel really good because we're about to hear about the emergence, if you will, of Stinky McDougal. And the convention for the Libertarian Party was just this weekend. And so my friend Nate and I had done it for many years, and then I just dropped off this year. And I wonder just how with it I am these days. But, here it is. It's a great cover and everything. And in fact, one of the folks from out of town asked the question, hey, why is there a Yoda on the cover? And Nate had to remind me about this. I said, we always have an alien on the cover. And no, the real reason was because they had a convention once on May 4th. And so we did the May the 4th be with you and you be other, But actually on the cover itself, years ago we started this. We've always put a little alien on the cover of the brochure. There's usually another one in here. And I'll be honest with you, these are easily some of the best workbooks I've ever seen the party put together. And so parts of the party are really functional and have been for a long time. And Nate does a fantastic job organizing, and it was a great finish. Last year, I actually did a name badge, as you know, that was Stinky McDougal itself. And so this year, I went as Incognito. I didn't have a beard this time last year, so I went as Incognito.
Stinky, what does the N stand for?
Not Stinky McDougal. Oh, yes, the middle initial was N as well. No, it's not Stinky McDougal. Cognito. Incognito. And the funny thing is that despite how the next 3 or 4 months went, Stinky McDougal is well liked in the LP as a trailblazer, if you will. And the convention was a lot of fun, and I love going back and meeting with the guys and going through the exercise. And I'll talk about that exercise in another video because this video is about right after the election. And so I was still involved in the politics, and I thought I was still going to, be active in the party. And so I decided, since I had this Facebook page that now had 1,500 people following it, I could do whatever I wanted with it. And I think, if I recall correctly, the primary influence for what I did next was a quote that is attributed to the Nazi propagandist Goebbels, who said, tell a lie no matter how big. Or actually, I think he said, make it big, right? And he said, people will believe it. And that lie would then become the mortal enemy of the state. And so, I started looking at the question. I mean, I'd already agreed with Joe that the UFO issue was a valid issue, that it was something that we definitely should talk about because, in my primary experience is whatever's not being talked about that, has real precedence, like, shit flying in our skies and strange incidences that are occurring and abductions and whatever else was real. And it just kind of stirred me to go, hey, being at the forefront of things is often what helps to innovate an entire idea. And I just happened to stumble onto this one. Not that the UFO issue was new and not the disclosure issue was new, but, pulling together the idea that both disclosure and freedom and the crash are all part of the same coming event. And so I did a radio interview. I think I did two. I did one with the Rundown Live, and I think I'll try and dig that one out. I think I can still get that one. And that one we did with just me. And then I did one with Joe Buchman himself with, I believe it was Elizabeth Turtween. And I don't know where that one's at. Joe and I talked for about 2.5 hours on that one, kind of sharing the same thing. And he said some very interesting things on that, and in particular, just the synchronistic, emergence that he's had as well, just, some of the odd stuff that he's been through. And so, after having done these two interviews, I sent a press release out, and it did not make the party happy. And I can't recall exactly what the press release was about, but it was, first of all, that's what it was. So what had happened was Steve Bassett had posted a question on the White House petition site, and I figured, he only get 10,000. I might be able to get 100 or maybe even 200 if I really tried. Why not? Put something forth for the effort. That became such a challenge and such a danger to the party that Paul approved Andy to delete the Facebook page from my run for governor. And Andy had been an administrator, and so he had all the rights to do so. And I woke up one morning after posting on the issue to find my page gone. And that was probably the single largest social media loss for the party in its history. And you have to couple that with the fact that here we are 9 years later, and what's all over the TV? What are we discussing in Congress? What is Tom DeLonge doing? And what he's doing is exactly what I thought he was doing when he emerged in 2014, right around the time that I was engaging this as well. That, I might add, was another odd synchronicity. And so I went to the convention, and of course everybody is, Bob's a big conspiracy theorist. Hey guys, look, some conspiracies are true. And we should be talking about these things because nobody else is. And there are constituencies who want to hear someone who will represent them. And so besides the UFO issue, I also advocated on behalf of 9/11 as an inside job. There were things that people pointed to and that I went and investigated myself, and in particular, the free fall nature of Building 7, which should have never fallen, but did. And all of these sparked my interest and sparked for me enough of my interest and attention that I deemed these worthy topics to have somebody confront me with. Heaven forbid they try that. And as you'll see later in the stories, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel actually used my advocacy as a reason for people not to vote for Gary Johnson. The advocacy that got me in the most trouble, the absolute most trouble, was that I had put a press release out that I supported Hillary Clinton's call to release the UFO files. And that was the article that the Star Tribune, or the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, pointed to when Gary Johnson was running. They went through a litany, and we'll talk about that litany later. And they said, when Wisconsin finally gets a libertarian, things go wacko. And so in any case, so we're back at, just after the election 2014. I'm putting out material on the UFO disclosure issue, and my Facebook page is deleted. We go to the convention. The convention is a complete shit show. There's like, 20 of us there. We had lost all the momentum after the election. And so in that, fearing what I might do with more disclosure activity, the party, which had challenges understanding libertarianism, elected somebody who was not a libertarian, who actually identified on social media as a classical conservative. That's not what a libertarian is. Libertarian is a classical liberal. We believe in your right to do anything that you want to do so long as you're not harming anyone else's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, or property. And honestly, as I look at it, property is the wrong sentiment. That was not the sentiment in the Constitution, because the founders even knew that it was not property, but the final piece of the puzzle was the pursuit of happiness. Property is an illusion, right? I mean, if property were real, then one person should be able to buy and own the entire world. What an insane idea, Bob. Yeah, I know it is. So is the idea of property. And so we came out of the convention. I was still the district rep for the 3rd Congressional District. And I went home and I wrote a press release. And I put out in the press release that I had gone to the convention and that I had spoken about the election itself, and also the things that I was going to advocate on next, which included 9/11 and I believe I put the phenomenon. And then the most amazing thing happened. And I have never seen this happen before in my life, but it did. Andy wrote a letter to the editor of my local newspaper. And I'm going to dig it out, and I'm going to stick it up here. And you can take a moment here and you can read it if you'd like. And I couldn't believe it. Outside of everything else that was insane in my life, there was one part of the letter that struck me. And it was that Andy had lied that I had ever said that chemtrails were used for mind control. Why would he ever say that? And, as I thought about it one day, years later, if chemtrails are what I think they are, which is that they're trying to reduce the electromagnetic fluctuation, which causes heart attacks and mental illness and episodes, if they're trying to reduce that fluctuation through this particle seeding, then technically, yes, they use it for mind control, to give you more control of your mind. And then things deteriorated from there in the party, as you can imagine. Not only was I taken off of every committee, except the convention committee, but I wasn't fit to serve on any committee, to do anything for the party. And so I got on the conference call one day, the Zoom conference call for the party for the month, and I was really mad. And I remember thinking to myself, there's something analogous here. What is it? It's like it's like the Stinky Irishman, the one that built the railroad, right? He was good enough to build the railroad, but he was too stinky to be inside the train. So Irishman had to ride on top of the train. And that's a true story. I went, Stinky McDougal. And Stinky McDougal was born. Stinky was too stinky to do anything for the party. And so I resolved myself to other tactics. And Nate and I began to put on the convention, and Trevor, the three of us got together, and we continued and began to put on future conventions and host those, and to direct the party by controlling the party. And we really didn't even control the party. We created great venues for us to bring together like-minded people and to exchange ideas. And over the years, I would learn a lot about politics, because just 1 year later, this would not be over, not by a long shot. I'll talk about that in my next video. It was a trying time for me and my family because we were about to be evicted. And so I began working 2 jobs. And I did that, I think, probably in March of 2015. And the first job that I took, I had went and applied with the temp agencies. Now remember, the last year that I worked in 2012, after I took everything home and didn't pay all my taxes, I took home $417,000. I wasn't going to make that kind of money again. And about this point in time, I was resolving myself that not only had I made the world's biggest mistake, but that we were about to lose the house and take a crash. And it was right around here that I started looking at my book and realizing that what I had labeled as my collapse, which was to say it was going to be my experience of the economic collapse, was in reality a journal of my own personal collapse, of understanding who I am, what I've done, what I'm capable of, and what I'm capable of. And so they called me while I was on spring break in the Dells, and they said, "Hey, are you still looking for work?" "Yes." So the temp agency said, "Look, I got a couple things here. Do you want to work? Can you lift 50 pounds? "Yeah." "Do you want to work in the cheese factory in Ellsworth?" "No, that would not be good for my health." She said, how about a mill in Baldwin, Wisconsin?" And I said, yes. Good physical manual labor would be the first thing I need after sitting on my ass for 2.5 years and being angry. I had to begin facing the realities and the next phase. And so I did that by taking the second job, which was at the Data Recognition Corporation, where I graded standardized tests from around the US. And, it was around here that I started to recognize even more that, I was kind of having experiences, and that when I was having any experience, wherever I was, whatever I was doing, there was a lot to learn. There was a lot of information about what I was doing available for me to, fill in pieces. And so by grading standardized tests for that season, I got to read literally tens of thousands of papers written by students across America. And if you said, "Hey, Stinky, what's your evaluation of public education?" I would say the answer to the question is, we need a better testing system, because these kids aren't being adequately evaluated. I can't express enough that nobody's grade was harmed because I did it. One state's test was introduced to us with a rubric. Going to grade them 1 through 6. Just so the room knows, nobody's getting a 6. Yeah. My favorite story, though, from Data Recognition Corp was meeting a new friend of mine. And it was 4:20 when the assignment started. And the assignment was for the student to just write a story. Just tell us something. You know, it could be true, you could make it up, whatever you wanted. Tell us a story, make an argument. And yeah, we were paired up with two other people, and I was paired up with two women. One a woman a bit older than me, and then one woman younger than me. And we, scored a test together. And then they said, okay, we're going to let you guys score a test together. And so the paper that came up, and it was the only paper that I had like this. The paper that came up for the three of us to read was written by a girl. I believe you could see the handwriting, and it was readable. And the young lady wrote advocating for the right to go topless, which I completely applaud. That kind of intuitive recognition of just how we live this very ruled life. Very ruled life. That evening, as I was leaving, that one friend said, "Hey, it's 4:20, and I understand you're dry," because we chatted, and she gifted me a bud, and we have been friends ever since that day. And it is one of those moments where there's really nowhere else I was supposed to be but meeting that person. Because soon I would take a venture on the crazy train, the real crazy train. And I would come clean on some very big secrets. And I would learn. I would learn something fundamentally true, not just about myself, but about human nature. I appreciate your time. Peace.